For years, I thought my marriage with Caroline was the one that would last. I was cautious, protective, and thoroughly examined her character before fully committing. After growing up in a tumultuous household where love was conditional and harsh, I was determined to break the cycle and build a strong, supportive marriage. Caroline seemed perfect. She was beautiful, funny, and caring, everything I thought I needed after my chaotic childhood. We married, bought a lovely house, and started building our future together. But what I thought would be my happily ever after slowly turned into a nightmare. Our once passionate relationship began to deteriorate after just 2 years. Arguments over trivial things like late work hours, dishes in the sink, and her spending too much time with friends became regular occurrences. Despite my best efforts to salvage our marriage, it seemed like everything I did only made things worse. I suggested therapy, and though I paid for everything, Caroline didn't seem interested in improving our relationship. Grief from her father's passing exacerbated things, but she refused to talk about it and kept growing more distant, making our marriage feel like a hollow shell. One day, when I was away for work, I decided to surprise her. I bought her favorite flowers, chocolates, and even champagne to rekindle the flame. I thought it might be the perfect gesture to remind her of what we once had. But when I got home early, my world shattered. Caroline was in our bed, not alone, but with another man. He scrambled to get dressed, and in a blur of rage and disbelief I confronted them. The man tried to flee, but my emotions took over. I slapped him, a slap that felt less like a blow and more like a warning. But the real shock came when I turned to Caroline. Her reaction wasn't one of guilt or apology, it was irritation. She didn't even seem fazed, as if being caught cheating was a minor inconvenience. She complained about me coming home early and disrupting her afternoon. Worse, she blamed me for not agreeing to an open relationship, an insane justification for what she had done. She had tried to hurt me, but in that moment it became clear that our marriage had already been dead for a long time. I stood there shattered, surrounded by the remnants of a marriage I had poured my heart into. The wedding picture on the nightstand mocked me, a cruel reminder of the love I thought we shared. The man I had once trusted was no longer the man I knew. He was someone who had been manipulated, someone who had been blindsided by the woman he thought would love him forever. But the story didn't end there. In the days that followed, Caroline's attempts to justify her actions and place the blame on me continued. She claimed that she had needs and that I was the one to blame for not supporting her open relationship request months prior. The twisted logic behind her reasoning was beyond comprehension. I had been faithful, I had loved her with everything I had, and yet she was trying to make me the villain. And as if that wasn't enough, my ex's jealousy would come back with a vengeance. She couldn't accept the fact that I had moved on, found love, and started over. She tried to run me over in a fit of rage and jealousy when she saw me with someone new. My ex was so consumed by her own insecurities and entitlement that she didn't care who she hurt in the process. It was a stark reminder of the emotional damage she had inflicted on me and the lengths she was willing to go to keep me in her web of control. In the end, I learned that sometimes the people you love the most can hurt you the hardest. But the most important lesson I've taken away from all of this is that you can't let someone's betrayal define your worth. It's never too late to walk away, to find peace, and to build a future on your own terms. What I thought was the end of my story with Caroline turned out to be the beginning of a new chapter, one where I am in control of my happiness and my future. After 6 years of marriage, I believed I had found the love of my life in Caroline. We met on Instagram, and I thought she was everything I had been searching for: beautiful, funny, compassionate, and understanding. Coming from a chaotic upbringing, I was cautious about who I let into my life, and when Caroline checked all the right boxes, I felt like I could finally break the cycle of dysfunction in my family. We married, bought a charming suburban home, and began our life together. But what started as a dream quickly turned into a nightmare. Our relationship began to deteriorate after just a few years. What once were small disagreements turned into regular blowout fights over trivial things like dishes in the sink and my late work hours. I tried to fix things by suggesting couples therapy, but Caroline rejected it immediately. She wouldn't even try to address our communication problems. She became more distant, and I was left feeling alone in my marriage. The real turning point came when I was sent to a business expo for work. During my trip, I planned a surprise for Caroline, a gesture to remind her of our early happy days. I bought her favorite flowers, chocolates, and champagne, thinking it would rekindle something between us. But when I came home early, The world I had built with Caroline came crashing down. I found her in our bed with another man. The shock and pain I felt were indescribable. I was devastated, but what followed was even worse. Caroline didn't apologize or show any remorse. Instead, she was annoyed that I had come home early and caught her in the act. Her coldness and audacity shattered everything I believed about our marriage. In the days that followed, the betrayal turned even more bizarre. Caroline tried to justify her actions, even going so far as to send me a series of texts comparing her affair partner's performance to mine. She mocked me for being a bad husband, and even accused me of being selfish for ruining her chance at true happiness by returning home early. She was attempting to turn herself into the victim, all while showing no regard for the pain she had caused. I realized then that Caroline was no longer the woman I married. She had turned into someone unrecognizable, someone capable of lying and manipulating with no remorse. But I wasn't going to let her turn me into something I wasn't. I refused to stoop to her level and engage in the drama she wanted. I walked away, determined not to let her drag me down any further. After my initial shock and anger subsided, I turned to my friend Mark for support. He was a divorced man who knew all too well the mess I was facing. Mark guided me through the divorce process, offering practical advice and emotional support. He helped me gather evidence of Caroline's infidelity, which would later prove invaluable in the legal proceedings. The more I learned about divorce law, the angrier I became. In my state, even though Caroline had cheated on me, I might still have to pay her alimony. This idea was infuriating, but Mark pointed out that the courts might take her infidelity into account and reduce the alimony payments. With that in mind, I began documenting everything: texts, emails, and anything that would help me in court. Despite my initial hopes for a clean and quick break, Caroline dragged the process out. She avoided the legal papers, ignored deadlines, and made petty demands, even asking for half of my retirement funds. All the while, she was still seeing her affair partner. It was clear to me that she was trying to make my life as miserable as possible while living her best life. She was determined to make this process as difficult as possible, and I knew it would take all my strength to get through it. During this time, I tried to move on in small ways. I briefly ventured into the world of online dating, hoping to fill the void left by Caroline. But every casual encounter felt hollow. I realized that I wasn't looking for just anyone. I wanted a meaningful connection. That's when something unexpected happened. I found myself at a small independent bookstore, looking for a distraction from the chaos of my life. While browsing through the shelves, I struck up a conversation with a woman about science fiction books. For the first time in months, I felt like a human being again, not a man embroiled in a messy divorce. This woman was warm, engaged, and genuinely interested in what I had to say. We spent hours talking, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a spark of hope. After our conversation, I gathered the courage to ask for her number. It was the beginning of something new, a new chapter in my life where I wasn't defined by betrayal or heartbreak. Caroline's actions had tried to destroy me, but they ultimately led me to something better. In the end, I realized that life has a funny way of forcing us to face the worst to prepare us for something better. Caroline may have broken my heart, but she also pushed me to the point where I could rebuild myself, stronger and more self-aware than before. I may have lost the woman I thought I would grow old with, but I gained something even more valuable: myself. I'm moving on, and while the scars will never fully heal, they are no longer the defining feature of my life. I've learned to prioritize myself, and in doing so, I've opened the door to a new love, new opportunities, and a future that's entirely mine. And that, in the end, is worth more than anything I could have imagined when I first walked down the aisle. I was a 36-year-old man who thought he had everything: a loving wife, a comfortable job, and a life that seemed like a dream. Caroline, my wife, was beautiful, intelligent, and had a charm that made me feel like I was the luckiest guy alive. We met through Instagram, and after a whirlwind romance, I married her. For 6 years, we shared everything: the good, the bad, and the ugly. But what I didn't see was the betrayal, slowly eating away at our relationship. It all started when our marriage began to unravel. Our once blissful connection turned into a battleground, with arguments over the smallest things. The marriage I thought was perfect soon became a daily struggle. I tried everything I could to keep it together: therapy, heartfelt gestures, and countless apologies. Yet Caroline became more distant, more critical, and less like the woman I once knew. The breaking point came when I was away on a work trip. I had planned a surprise for Caroline, hoping to rekindle our connection. I purchased her favorite flowers, chocolates, and champagne, thinking this would remind her of the love we once shared. But what awaited me when I returned home shattered me beyond belief. Caroline was in our bed with another man. The betrayal hit me like a freight train. It wasn't just the infidelity, it was the complete disregard for everything we had built. I stood, frozen, heartbroken, as the man scrambled to get dressed, completely unaware of the storm he was walking into. My hand clenched in anger, and before I knew it I had slapped him across the face. But my anger wasn't directed at him, it was at Caroline, the woman I had trusted with my heart. She didn't apologize, didn't show remorse. She was angry that I caught her. Her attitude was one of irritation rather than regret. It was at that moment I realized I was no longer in a marriage, I was in a charade, a relationship built on lies and deception. I walked away that day knowing my life had changed forever, but what happened next was even more unexpected. I met Emma. I was at a bookstore, trying to distract myself from the chaos of my life when I struck up a conversation with a woman about science fiction. Emma was different from anyone I had ever met. She was genuine, kind, and interested in everything I had to say. We spent hours talking, laughing, and discovering common interests. I walked out of that bookstore with her number and a sense of hope that had been absent from my life for a long time. Our first date was a breath of fresh air. Emma didn't judge me for my ongoing divorce. She didn't make me feel guilty for my past. She was compassionate and understanding, showing more emotional maturity than I had ever seen from Caroline. Over the next 5 months, I fell completely for her. Emma was patient, caring, and attentive. She made me feel heard, something I hadn't felt in years. But just as things seemed to be getting better, tragedy struck again. One afternoon, Emma and I were enjoying a peaceful day out when everything turned upside down. As we walked through the parking lot, a car came speeding toward us. I grabbed Emma, trying to pull her out of the way, but her leg was clipped by the car and I heard the sickening crack of her bone. In a frenzy, I dragged her between 2 parked cars, narrowly avoiding the car's second attempt to hit us. The driver reversed, roaring the engine, and tried again. And then I saw her. Caroline, my soon-to-be ex-wife, was the one behind the wheel. She was calmly getting out of the car as if she were at a business meeting, but her eyes were filled with rage. This wasn't just some random road rage incident, this was deliberate. Caroline had planned this. She had been following us, waiting for the right moment to hurt me, to hurt Emma. The police arrived, and I was forced to witness Caroline's complete breakdown. She screamed at me, accusing me of ruining her life, even as she was being arrested for attempted murder. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. This woman who had once promised to love and cherish me had just tried to kill us. Emma was rushed to the hospital, her leg in excruciating pain, but she still managed to comfort me. I was reeling from what had just happened, but Emma's strength and support gave me the courage to keep moving forward. We both knew that the person who had once been my wife was gone, replaced by someone capable of the unthinkable. The legal battle that followed was a blur. Caroline's actions were captured on multiple security cameras, and it was clear that her attempt to kill us was premeditated. She had been following us, watching us, and waiting for the moment to strike. The evidence was irrefutable, and she was arrested for attempted murder. As I sat in the courtroom watching Caroline's lies unravel, I realized how far removed from the person I had once loved she had become. She was no longer the woman I had married. She was a stranger, someone who had turned my world upside down. But through it all, I had Emma by my side, supporting me in ways I never thought possible. As for me, I knew that this was my chance to rebuild my life. The woman who had broken my heart had shown me her true nature, and in doing so she had opened the door for someone better to walk in. Emma was everything Caroline never was, kind, loving, and honest, and together we would build a future that was brighter and more genuine than anything I had experienced before. For a while I kept this story to myself, not knowing how to put it into words. But now that everything's settled, I feel ready to share my experience, hoping it might help someone else avoid the same horrors I went through. Let me introduce myself. I'm a 36-year-old man who thought he had it all. I married Caroline when I was 30. She was everything I ever wanted, beautiful, funny, and seemingly perfect. I had come from a broken family where my father was abused, and I vowed to never fall into that cycle. When I met Caroline, I thought I had escaped it. We met on Instagram, and I thought I'd struck gold. I had done my due diligence, carefully watching how she handled money, stress, and people. She passed every test. I married her and thought our life together would be a happily ever after. But soon after our marriage, things started to fall apart. The petty fights became more frequent, and soon we barely spoke to each other. Yet, I was still hopeful, still trying to fix what was broken, convinced that with enough effort, I could bring back the love we once had. But one day everything changed. I was away on a business trip, planning to surprise Caroline with flowers, chocolates, and a bottle of champagne. I had hoped this gesture would rekindle what we lost. But when I came home early, expecting a joyous reunion, I walked into a nightmare. Caroline was in our bed with another man. The man scrambled to get dressed, and I felt my whole world shatter. My wife, the woman I loved, had betrayed me. I felt a surge of anger, but my shock turned to disbelief when Caroline didn't even apologize. Instead, she accused me of ruining her perfect afternoon. But that wasn't the worst part. As I stood there trying to process the betrayal, she showed no remorse. Her only concern was her ruined fun. It was in that moment I realized I wasn't just married to a woman who cheated on me. I was married to someone who thought nothing of our vows. This was the beginning of the end, but I didn't know yet how much worse it could get. Fast forward a few months, I met Emma. It wasn't planned. We struck up a conversation at a bookstore about science fiction. It felt so natural, so different from everything I had experienced with Caroline. Emma wasn't looking for a relationship. She just wanted to talk about books, and for the first time in months I felt seen and heard. I was still going through my divorce, but Emma didn't make me feel guilty for it. She was patient and understanding, never rushing me, and in her I saw everything I had been missing. I was slowly healing and things started looking brighter. But just when I thought I was moving on, life threw me another curveball. One afternoon, after a lovely day with Emma, I was walking with her to her car when everything went wrong. A car came speeding toward us. I barely had time to react as I pulled Emma away, but not fast enough. Her leg was clipped and I heard the sickening snap as her bone broke. The driver reversed and tried to hit us again. I pulled Emma between two parked cars, her cries of pain echoing in my ears as I fought to keep her safe. And then I saw her. Caroline. My ex-wife, the woman who had once shared my life, was the one behind the wheel. She wasn't just angry, she was determined. It wasn't road rage. This was premeditated. She had followed us, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. As she got out of the car, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Caroline, with a cold, detached look in her eyes, didn't even acknowledge what she had just done. It was as if she were going to a business meeting, completely composed. But this wasn't a meeting. This was an attempt on our lives. The police arrived, and Emma was rushed to the hospital. I couldn't shake the image of Caroline's face, so calm and unaffected. She had tried to kill us. And when I told Emma who the driver was, she didn't flinch. She simply reached for my hand and made a dark joke about how she was going to work on her road rage in prison. The legal process moved quickly. The whole event had been captured on multiple security cameras, showing Caroline stalking us in the parking lot, waiting for the right moment, and then ramming her car into us. It wasn't just an accident. It was cold, calculated, and the evidence was irrefutable. Caroline was arrested for attempted murder. The divorce process, which had been dragging on for months, suddenly became clear-cut. Caroline's actions had sealed her fate. The judge saw through her antics and denied her any claim to my assets. She didn't get alimony, she didn't get the house, and she certainly didn't get anything for my retirement. All she got was a prison sentence. The judge didn't care if she was the wronged woman or not. The law was clear. Attempted murder doesn't earn you a share of someone's assets. Despite everything that had happened, the hardest part was leaving the apartment we had shared. Too many memories of betrayal lingered in those rooms. Emma and I found a new place, a beautiful apartment in the city, far away from the ghosts of my past. Emma's recovery was slow but steady, and she was soon back on her feet. Her leg healed, and she joked about how, in the end, it was worth getting run over just to get rid of my crazy ex-wife. I sometimes think back to the early days of my marriage and wonder where I went wrong. But I know now that sometimes you can't see the signs until it's too late. Sometimes it takes something as drastic as a murder attempt to fully understand who a person really is. I've moved on, and I'm happier than I've ever been. Emma and I are even discussing getting married next spring. We've learned to enjoy life without the toxic baggage of the past. Caroline will eventually serve her time, but that's a chapter I'll never have to revisit. If anything, I've learned that life can change in an instant, and when it does, it's often for the better. Emma is my future now, and together we're building a life free from the pain and deception that once defined my past. The key lesson from this story is the importance of recognizing when to move on from toxic relationships and how to find strength and resilience in the face of betrayal. Life often throws unexpected challenges, and the path to healing is rarely linear. The narrator's journey emphasizes that even after experiencing deep hurt and betrayal, it is possible to rebuild and find true happiness. Relationships, especially those that are built on deceit or manipulation, can leave emotional scars, but they can also teach us invaluable lessons about self-worth and boundaries. This story is a reminder that no matter how difficult it may seem, it's essential to stand up for yourself and take control of your own happiness. Additionally, it highlights the importance of forgiveness, not necessarily for others, but for your own peace and well-being. Surrounding yourself with supportive people who uplift you, like Emma in this story, can make all the difference. In the end, it is the courage to walk away from toxic situations and the strength to embrace new beginnings that leads to true freedom and fulfillment. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found value in this story and it resonated with you, please comment 1 down below to let me know. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you never miss an update, and give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. If you think this story could help someone, please share it with your friends and family. And as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts and feelings about the video, so feel free to share in the comments. Until next time, take care and stay strong.